Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, fellow big kids, it is I, your vintage animation and action figure nerd. Animation action figure. I'm discussing animation. Today, it's your vintage animation and action figure nerd. We got a dilemma to talk about today. We got us a problem. I'm thinking back to the yesteryear of the 80s, and I like to call it the Season 2 dilemma. Some very worthy pieces of animation received their Season 2, not always with the best results, but some very worthy pieces of animation did receive their Season 2. Yes. Some definitely deserved it. Definitely deserved a second season, and that didn't reach fruition. And some simply went on for a little too long beyond Season 2. So a little too long. We're not talking about like Scooby-Doo or Fat Albert, because they were retreaded into different series over the years. I mean, it wasn't like a second season of Fat Albert, The Adventures of Fat Albert. It was Fat Albert, then The New Adventures of Fat Albert, then The Adventures of Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, I think. Scooby-Doo, even more convoluted. He kept getting retreaded into different seasons ever since 1968 or 9 when he was introduced. Anyway, let's talk about the Season 2 dilemma and what Season 2 has done to cartoons that were very worthy of a second season. Help if I held it up here. It also helped if I didn't drop the cassette here. Let's see. He-Man. Was there any action cartoon more worthy of a second season than He-Man? Then we saw what Season 2 did. I mean, He-Man was definitely Filmation's most popular, most successful project. And they had been around the block for quite a long time before they made He-Man. Season 1's episodes of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe were obviously great. I mean, for the most part, they were great. Season 2 came along and the writing went sort of downhill, and they made the villains far more buffoonish than they had been in Season 1. I mean, going back to Season 1, Skeletor had been at his most successful in the Dragon Invasion, which happened to be Episode 9 out of 130. You figure it out. Also, Beastman and Trapjaws, the two stooges, always bumbling everything. That came along in Season 2. Along with far less of Triclops or Merman being around in order to make room for Too Bad and Whiplash and Spikor. And between Too Bad or Spikor, who was the more buffoonish? Also, the Heroic Warriors added Buzz-Off, Mechanic, Fisto, Roboto at least once. But we rarely saw, for instance, Stratos anymore. And we never saw Lizard Man again after, say, 2 appearances in Season 1. Um, how bad could the writing be on season 2? And I mean, season 1 had some sleepers as well. Out of 130 episodes, yes, there were some sleepers. How bad were some of the episodes in season 2? It was season 2 that gave us the abysmal circus episode. That was pretty bad. I mean, season 1 Skeletor was a pretty bad actor. Albeit some of my favorite episodes had different villains in them, but he was could be pretty evil in season 1. In season 2, you could almost forgive how clumsy and klutzy his evil warriors became, because that's exactly how he was treated. Alright. Enough said about the dead drum that was season 2 of He-Man. Let's talk about season 2 of She-Ra. Now I think Filmation kind of saw the writing on the wall, because season 2 of She-Ra only lasted 27, 28 episodes. Hang on, 65 in the first season. I think there were 93 overall. 28 episodes. I'm almost positive. With one more having been storyboarded but never reaching fruition. So I think that Filmation could kind of see the writing on the wall where this series was headed, for resetting it into reruns of the far better first season. Again, it was season 2 that they decided to bring a circus act to Etheria as well, and that didn't go over any better than when they brought a circus to Eternia. The writing got clumsier and clumsier with the dialogue. I mean, season 1 had established that the Horde troopers were robots. Thereby the rebellion could exact as much violence as they wanted on them, because they were machines, they couldn't be harmed, and they were easily replaced. Season 2 came along, and the dialogue became reminding us about twice every 4 minutes that the Horde troopers were robots. We know. Okay. As with everything, there are exceptions. Season 2 also gave us the comedy masterpiece that was Sweet Bee's Home. My absolute favorite episode out of all of them. So that gets a pass. Thundercats. Doo-doo-doo. Once again, 130 episodes worth of Thundercats. That sounds like 2 full seasons, but on some technicality, it wasn't. Season 1 was 65 episodes. The final 65 episodes were unofficially split up between a season 2, 3, and a 4. Each one split up by a 5-part epic. And any episodes in between, the writing had died. The writing was just completely off from anything that season 1 had ever offered us, except for those 5-part miniseries starting each new season. Season 2 came the closest to ever competing with season 1. But still, I mean, the writing was was way down, the animation was down, and they started heavily relying on stock footage and even stock plot lines from the first season. Now let's transition from Thundercats into a Toon that certainly deserved a second season that never reached fruition. The Silverhawks, yes. Even when I was little, I always preferred the Silverhawks. I mean, the theme song, the characters, the storylines, and it only lasted one season, so it's not like it wore out its welcome. That being said, there was basically no continuity between the episodes, so there was no reason for anything beyond 65. You know who else deserved a second season? Bravestar. That's a long forgotten. Bravestar is a long forgotten gem because, just like Silverhawks, it only got the one season out of him. And again, zero continuity between the episodes. No plot line that really carried over, except Tex Hex is the bad guy and Stampede is the evil force who created him. Gotta save New Texas. Bang bang. So what does season 2 have really done for the series? It's just sadly unfortunate that it became Filmation's final syndicated project. Honestly, I think it deserved another season. That and Silverhawks. Back to where a season 2 did something not quite right. And I meant to add this in the segment before Thundercats, because Thundercats was the logical transition into Silverhawks. But I digress. G.I. Joe. Season 1 of G.I. Joe gave us... Now, again, this is a tough one. Because the 5-part series of The Mass Device and the 5-part Revenge of Cobra, The Weather Dominator, were created 2 years and a year respectively before G.I. Joe became a syndicated animated series. So are they part of season 1, or are they the canon that led to the first syndicated season? I digress. Along came G.I. Joe Season 2, replacing Cobra Commander with Serpentor. And for as ineffective as Cobra Commander was, as buffoonish as Cobra Commander could be, Serpentor was worse. Oh yeah, he was worse. That, and they never really used, say, Storm Shadow again, as far as I know. Like Storm Shadow, Major Blood, Scrap Iron didn't really survive past the 5-part Arise, Serpentor, Arise. Then you go over to the G.I. Joe side, and they really wanted to introduce Leatherneck, Wetsuit, Mainframe, Lifeline, General Hawk, and to make Sergeant Slaughter a G.I. Joe. It's all well and good. I mean, Low Light and Leatherneck were good characters. Fairly good characters. But General Hawk brought nothing to the table that Duke or Flint didn't provide. With Lifeline, we lost Doc somewhere. And I know we never really saw Dusty or Airtight or Mutt and Junkyard again, and I don't really recall that we ever saw Snake Eyes past season 1 either. These were some of my favorite characters. Therein lies the problem with G.I. Joe season 2. And those were still the Sunbow years, so G.I. Joe was still any good. Beyond season 2, then Deke Animation came along and almost made me long for the days of season 2 again. Toons that lasted a little too long and for a few too many seasons. The conversation begins with the Turtles and with the Smurfs. And I get it. Popularity counts. The numbers don't lie. The Ninja Turtles were very popular. So were the Smurfs. The Real Ghostbusters. The Real Ghostbusters should have ended right around the time they circled back, put them back on Saturday mornings, and repackaged it Slimer in The Real Ghostbusters. Bad move. And I'm even giving them credit for the seasons where Peter and Peter and Egon were voiced by... It was Peter and Janine were voiced by different voice actors, and it was obvious. But I'm even giving them credit for that, so long as it's not Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters. And again, the numbers don't lie. The Real Ghostbusters were a huge hit their first couple of seasons. But therein lies the season 2 dilemma all over again. Cartoons that deserved a season 2, all of a sudden either the animation or the writing or the characters got cheapened. Therefore, cartoons that deserved a second season, they never got their shot at it. And there's nothing wrong with reruns, nothing wrong with running back the good episodes, but like so many others, these kind of disappeared into history somewhere because they did only last one season of afternoon syndication. In the meantime, these still live on today in some form or another. And don't even tell me that the new Netflix series are the same as these. Put these back up, Netflix, now. Okay, Revelations is good. Revelations is good. I gotta say that. And as for these, let's give their mid-2010, early 2010s, let's give their early 2010 reboot another shot. That was decent. None of this Thundercats purr nonsense. Vintage Animation and Action Figure Nerd, signing off.